Fan module, removal and installation. For this operation, the air inlet cowl must be removed first. Then remove the inlet cone and its fairing. There are 25 curvic bolts which attach the fan module. Put hub protectors and remove 21 out of 24 bolts, observing the unscrew procedure. The 3 bolts adjacent to the guide pins of the stub shaft remain in position. Next, the hub protectors are removed to install the sling adapter. Then the sling adapter is fixed. Using a hoist, connect the cantilever sling to the sling adapter. Secure the sling adapter with a quick release pin. Using the adjustment handle, align the hoisting plate to the witness mark. Remove the remaining 3 curvic bolts. And carefully move forward the fan assembly, making sure that nothing hits against the fan case. The fan module is reinstalled with the same precautions. Use the correlation mark and the U slot of the stub shaft to align the fan disc. Make sure that the fan module is correctly engaged and secure it with the curvic bolts at 2, 4, 8 and 10 o'clock position. Then remove the sling adapter with the cantilever sling. Install and tighten the other curvic bolts. Finally, reinstall the air inlet cowl and the inlet cone. When leaving the work area, make sure that the air intake is clear and clean of tools.
Thrust reverser cowl door installation. Make sure that the aircraft is in the same configuration as for the removal task, with the thrust reverser system deactivated. On the dolly, attach the thrust reverser hoisting sling to the 3 sling points on the thrust reverser half. First, attach the sling to the hoisting fixture provided on the thrust reverser hinge upper beam. Then attach the sling to the lower hoisting points of the cowl door. Lift the cowl door from the dolly and carefully position the cowl door onto the pylon. Align the thrust reverser cowl door hinges with the hinges on the crossover beams of the pylon. And install the 4 hinge bolts. First at position 4. then at positions 1, 2, and 3. Next, remove the hoisting fixture from the hinge upper beam and keep the lower 2 sling points attached. Using the hoist, lift the door to the maximum open position. Extend the rear and forward hold open rods and make sure that they are correctly engaged. Remove the thrust reverser sling from the lower hoisting points. After that, remove the dust cover from the quick disconnect and connect the hydraulic hose from a hand pump or service unit. Inside the thrust reverser half, gain access to the mounting bracket of the thrust reverser cowl door opening actuator. Position the cowl door opening actuator. And attach it to its mounting brackets on the thrust reverser cowl door. Then remove the protective cap from the opening actuator hydraulic connector and connect the hydraulic manifold. Using the hydraulic service unit or hand pump, pressurize the actuator to bleed the air. When finished, tighten and torque the hydraulic manifold connector. Then reinstall the protective shroud. On the opposite side of the engine, gain access to the opening actuator hinge beam on the pylon. And using the hydraulic service unit, extend the opening actuator rod to the hinge beam. Align and attach it. Next, close the thrust reverser cowl door by operating the hydraulic service unit. On the engine bottom center line, engage and latch correctly both thrust reverser halves together. On the pylon area, finish tightening the hinge bolts and torque them at all positions. On the thrust reverser system, remove the dust cover of the hydraulic deploy hose. Use a container to collect the drained hydraulic fluid. Then insert the reverser flexible shaft into the deploy hose. And connect the deploy hose to the thrust reverser upper actuator. In the same way, connect the thrust reverser retract hose. On the thrust reverser system electrical receptacle, reconnect the electrical connector. On the pylon Aero, reinstall the hinge access panel. And the pylon fairings. Finally, return the aircraft to the initial configuration as defined in the close-up subtasks. Thrust reverser cowl door removal. First of all, prepare the aircraft for the removal task and deactivate the thrust reverser system. Install the thrust reverser sling to the sling points. First at the two lower hoisting points. Using the hoist, hold up the weight of the thrust reverser cowl door. And after having removed the hinge access panel from the pylon, attach the last hoisting fixture to the thrust reverser hinge upper beam. Next, disconnect the hydraulic manifold from the thrust reverser cowl door opening actuator. Install the protective caps. And remove the actuator. On the thrust reverser system, disconnect the electrical connector from the electrical receptacle. And disconnect the deploy and retract hoses from the upper actuator. Then gain access to the pylon hinges and remove the 4 hinge bolts and nuts. Carefully lift and disengage the thrust reverser cowl door from the pylon hinges. Remove the cowl door, taking care that it doesn't hit against the slat surfaces. Finally, lower it onto its dolly.
Thrust reverser, deactivation, and lockout. This procedure is carried out when a fault occurs on a thrust reverser which cannot be repaired for the next flight. Deactivation and lockout are therefore provided to secure the translating sleeves in stowed position when the aircraft has to be dispatched with an inoperative thrust reverser. First, on the engine start panel, check that the master lever is at off position and install a warning notice stating not to start the engine. On the maintenance panel, make sure that the engine FADEC ground power switch is off and install a warning notice. On the engine, open the left fan cowl door. Gain access to the hydraulic control unit, move the lever to deactivate the thrust reverser, and install the safety pin to hold the lever in the off position. Make certain that the translating sleeves are in the retracted position. Lock out each translating sleeve by using lock pins. For each translating sleeve, remove the thrust reverser lock pin from the lower lock pin receptacle and the dummy pin from the upper lock pin receptacle, then interchange them. Note the red head of the lock pin, which extends above the surface of the sleeve to indicate the lockout. Close the fan cowl door and make sure that the working area is clean and clear of the tools and other items. Finally, in the cockpit, remove the warning notices and install a placard indicating that the corresponding reverser is inoperative and note it in the logbook.